All right, everybody. Here with head football coach Sonny Cumbie. Coach, your team finished the season 7-6, 7-5, accepted a bowl bid to face Coastal Carolina in the 49th edition of the Independence Bowl on December 30th. Can you just talk about this upcoming matchup and what it means to go back to Shreveport to the bowl game?
Tech conference that Louisiana Tech is holding ahead of the Independence Bowl today. So right now, we're going to head on over.
Yeah.
All right, Coach,
You ready?
go ahead and give us an opening statement.
Yeah, no, our football program and our institution, Louisiana Tech, is extremely excited to be able to be a part of the 49th annual, Radiance Technologies Independence Bowl. I think that if you asked our football team if you wanted to go to a bowl game where the hospitality is as best as I've ever been around, and I've been to a lot of different bowl games, if the people that open their arms and they treat you top notch, you have an opportunity to compete against a future Sun Belt opponent and a great venue where last year I think we had the largest attended Radiance Technologies Independence Bowl in the last decade, and we had about 2.5 weeks really to market that one. We got a whole month to prepare for that from that standpoint, and our kids are really excited about this opportunity, extremely appreciative of Missy Setters, the executive director of the Radiance Technologies Independence Bowl, for the invitation. Sarah Giglio, when she called me yesterday and visited with Ryan Ivey, our athletic director, about coming to this bowl game, just really, really excited to be able to do this because I understand the importance of this game and this location and in this venue. When you have really the history that is in this bowl game, from the standpoint of the players that have played, when you think about a Kevin Falk, Seneca Wallace, Eli Manning, Daniel Jones, Atakio Spikes, all of those names have played in this bowl game over the course of the years. And I hope that for our football team that we have a guy or two that will follow along 10 years, 15 years from now, in the same footsteps as those guys. And just a great opportunity to continue to play football. I think this bowl game was instrumental for our chemistry and camaraderie that I've talked about all year, from the standpoint of us being able to do that, because I think the value, there's a lot of value that you have in being able to play this bowl game and being able to stay together for one more game. And you think about the development that your younger kids have, the opportunity for more practices, the opportunity for your team to continue to compete with each other and to compete against an opponent is extremely important. And again, it's basically another month of our guys being around each other, and a big majority of these guys are all coming back for next year's team. And so you have that core to build upon of really good players and good people. And so just excited to have this opportunity to play, in Shreveport. This is going to be, for us, this should be a home game, in terms of our crowd. I know there's a lot of excitement, and our players are excited about the opportunity to play against a Sun Belt opponent in Coastal Carolina, a really good team. And I know there's a lot of good storylines behind that opportunity to play Coastal, and so we're looking forward to that. And I think that, our kids are excited and looking forward to this opportunity to play in the Independence Bowl. Coming up at the end of this month. It's going to be on ESPN, 1 o'clock kickoff, and so our expectation is to have a great crowd. And also, the biggest thing for us as a football team is to have a great performance. You have an opportunity at Louisiana Tech to be the 9th team in 50 years to win a bowl game, a bowl championship. You also have the opportunity to finish at 8-5, and so I think that there's a lot of things that are exciting for our football team, going into this bowl game, and looking forward to start our prep, this week, and then looking forward to the hospitality on December 26th over in Shreveport whenever we get there.
You mentioned the guys looking forward to this. Do you view this as a kind of a measuring stick? I know you obviously played Southern Miss in the regular season, but you kind of view this going into 26 as kind of a measuring stick as you enter the league?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's a great opportunity to see where we stack up, because we played a team from the West and Southern Miss, and now we get to play a team, on the other side of the division with Coastal Carolina, and so it's a good measuring stick for our football team in terms of the Sun Belt and really where we stack up possibly on both sides of it. And again, it's an opportunity for our team to continue to get better and to continue to play a better style of football than even what we did against Missouri State. But I think from that standpoint, it's a good measuring stick, and of course, the rosters change and so much within a year, but I think it still will be give us a good idea from that standpoint.
How do you keep your guys football ready basically a month off, 3 weeks off basically? How do you guys stay ready and keep football shape, I guess, with that long delay?
Yeah, that's a great question, because it'll be over a month since we've played last against Missouri State, and so I think you have to have a great plan, and that's where Coach Scholes, our strength conditioning coach and the director of sports performance, does a great job there, and in terms of how we try to allocate our time with our players in terms of the calendar, and so we've got that plan in place. We feel really good about it. I think there's also there's a ramping up process. There's also you have have guys that are in a developmental stage where you want to practice them more because, a lot of times when these coaches, you say, hey, use these games in terms of, or use the practices to develop your teams. Well, how does that look practically on a daily basis? Well, it means these younger guys are going to practice more and longer, but your older guys don't necessarily need that. So there's really two different plans and tracks for your team within one. But then also, I think it's really important that as you get closer to the game, you have those crossover periods to where your guys start feeling the intensity, feeling the speed, the physicality that it will take to play against a really tough opponent like Coastal. And so you have to be strategic in ramping your kids up. You also want to make sure that, early on in the month you don't go, too hard too fast, because you want them to be really excited about playing in the game. And so I think that you have a good point about, from the standpoint of you haven't played in a month. And so how do you simulate that, all the while providing an enjoyable experience for the bowl prep? And then I think also as you get closer to the game too, it's really important from a situational standpoint that as coaches we stay sharp, because the things that we can control on game day in terms of substitutions, on special teams, there's a lot of moving parts that you're in rhythm of doing that week after week after week after week, that you fall out of rhythm. And so it's going to be important from our standpoint that the fundamentals of each side of the ball, defense, offense, and special teams, that we excel at, and then also the fundamentals of coaching from the standpoint of substitution and the standpoint of having a great game plan, and then also getting to the game, where you have guys that are healthy and they're excited about playing.
So the roster we've seen the past couple of days, guys announce intention to enter the transfer portal in January. Is it your intention that they will be on this team playing the bowl game? I know it was a little different last year just because it kind of came out of nowhere, but do you expect those transfer guys to play?
There'll be some of the guys that'll play. Yeah, I've had conversations with a few of the guys, and they've said, hey, Coach, I want to play in the game and I want to finish the season. And then so we've been working through some things from a school standpoint of what that looks like. And there's some of them that have we've withdrawn from school, because that's the thing with the quarter system starting last Wednesday. Our guys have really had to make their mind up, whether they wanted to play or not. And so we're working through some things though of the guys that have expressed the interest and desire. And I think it speaks a lot about their character, from the standpoint of coming and saying, hey, Coach, I don't know what it looks like in January, but I absolutely want to finish this season, with our team. And I think that really speaks to their character. Well, we're still working through with a few more of the guys, so we'll have probably another week or so we'll really have a good idea on it. I would expect some guys like Makai Mason's not playing, Jacob Fields, they're not playing, but other than that, we're working on everybody else.
In your opinion, why do you think guys transfer out, and then when they come to you and say they're going to move on, what do they say to you, I guess?
Well, part of it is there's a lot of money out there. That's really the biggest part of it, to be honest. In terms of the conversations that we have with guys, and I think when you have, when you have agents that get involved, and there's some things that are concrete out there. There's some things that aren't concrete out there. It's always like, the fear of like stepping into the unknown a little bit from the standpoint of what you're getting into once you do leave. We had 21 players, for whatever reason, that left our team last year. 4 of the 21 played as much or more than what they played here. The rest of them weren't near as productive, didn't play near as many snaps. And so now you have to always have that in reality in terms of that. And so that part of it is really the biggest part of it, I think, because, at the end of the day, we've been able to retain a lot of these guys off this last year's team. And I think we've built it to where, they know they're getting better individually, and we're getting better as a football team and as a program. They like where they're at in terms of their teammates. They know they're getting coached well. They enjoy being here, and so we've been able to make it too where they're able to stay. And so that's really kind of how those conversations go. And the calendar of college football, it's been much discussed. I think that's probably a big deal for coaches and players. But the other thing that pushes the envelope a little sooner for us is just with the quarter starting on Wednesday and being the only FBS school that has that calendar. That's the one challenge that it presents.
Sajid Gharri declared for the draft. I guess number one, what does that just say about the season that he had here? And then number two, do you expect he'll be ready to go play?
I don't know how a guy leads the country in interceptions in the second team in his conference in terms of all conference. The guy leads the country in interceptions, makes plays all over the field, and he's second team all conference. And so that's kind of a mystery to me. But I was proud of our guys. Jacob Fields was the co-defensive player of the year. You had Makai Mason, make second team. Eli Finley, second team, which is curious to me as well. And you didn't have any offensive linemen other than Landon Nelson, honorable mention, and you had the second best rushing offense in the league. And then you had the third best offense in terms of sacks giving up. not given up in the league, and so to not have more on there, I think is interesting. But the guys that were on there, I think Devin Gandy, first team, all conference kickoff returner. Dedrick Latulis was honorable mention punt returner, although he had better stats than the guy that was second team. And so there's some things like that you look at that are puzzling. I think John Chance did a great job. Jaden Mayfield, all conference freshman team, the same with Johnny. But Jakari, I anticipate him playing in the bowl game.
Back to the bowl game and face-off against North Carolina. Obviously going up against Jeremiah Johnson, not just the coordinator. He's an interim head coach there. Does that mean anything to you? Motivation to, at least, maybe not to you, but to the defensive players on your team?
Well, I told our kids, somebody in this whole bowl process has got a sense of humor. In terms of this matchup, and so I've spoken with JJ several times throughout the course of the year, with the guys on the staff, with Cortez, with Ja'Cory, with Coach Brookins, with James, and throughout the course of the year, and just football is a connected world, and you're always going to cross paths with guys, further on down the road. And so just very, like I said, like when they left, I mean, they did such a great job for us, very appreciative of the job that they did here. And it's exciting, to be able to compete against them. And the last time we competed together was on this stadium. And then, now we're crossing paths again. And I know undoubtedly, they're going to have those guys ready to play really hard on defense and swarming around. And then I think offensively, they hit a stretch in the middle of the season where they were really, really scoring a lot of points. And so it'll be a big challenge from that standpoint, and they're great football coaches. I know that.
What do you see? You just mentioned kind of a little bit about their season, but I don't know if you've looked at any film yet or whatever. But just looking at Coastal Carolina as a whole, what do you see from them on the field and everything?
Yeah, I haven't taken a deep dive into them other than the things I've watched last night. And I was able to watch them a couple times during the season because they played, I think, on a Thursday night or a Friday night. And so I watched them. Defensively, the structure is very similar to what, we saw last year that we ran and we went against. And, offensively, I think their quarterback situation has really dictated the success they've had on offense. And they went through a stretch at the middle of the season where Samari Collier was their quarterback, and the quarterback run game was really, really explosive. They scored a lot of points. And so I've got to take a deeper dive into that, to try to get a feel for it. But I know just looking at their roster, some of the guys we've recruited that are really good, talented skill guys that are there. And so, I think it's going to be a good challenge.
And we see so much just the postseason. It feels like this year, like there's a lot of teams for whatever reason, 6, 7, 8-win teams that are opting out of bowl games. I'm curious, what do you make of just, I guess, the postseason structure in college football right now? Like where teams have postseason opportunities and they're just saying, no, we'd rather sit at home.
Yeah, I think that at times with the coaching transition, I mean, I do understand a little bit of why you would want, because it's a lot of work in terms of a bowl game, and there's a lot of moving parts. And so there's also, you're looking towards the future as well as celebrating this season for our team. And so, when you have transition, like at an Iowa State, when you have transition at Kansas State, I mean, you can kind of understand from that standpoint of there's a lot of unknowns and not being able to move forward with from a head coaching standpoint. And so, I think that each situation is unique. I think we're really appreciative and excited to be playing in the postseason. Long term, I'm sure there's some direction that the postseason will go where they expand the playoffs, and maybe they create another playoff for the group of 5. I don't know what that all looks like. That includes the bowls, because I think that these are such a great reward, and I think they're so vital to college football. And so I hope that there's some way to continue to play in them and involve them into the playoff system if it expands. But I know that we're really excited about this bowl game and the opportunity for our guys to continue to play and really to celebrate this team and to honor this team with an opportunity to win our 8th game at Radiance Technologies Independence Bowl.
What does these next few weeks do for recruits? We're going to have 1 or 2 cool guys on campus probably. They can come see practice. We also have a lot of local recruits from Shreveport that we just signed. Just talk about what this bowl season does for recruiting.
The one thing about it this year is they changed the recruiting calendar. And so from a recruiting standpoint, this rest of this month after this is dead. And so it really presents a few challenges that way, because you're not able to go out on the road. It's a great opportunity to have people come, which this is what we did last year. You had people come and watch you practice, because that's the best way in recruiting is for a kid to see you practice and for them to be able to see the coaching. And so the rest of this month is dead from that standpoint, which it's tough because we've got 8 teams in North Louisiana that are playing for a state championship this weekend, and I think you'll at a minimum we'll have 3 teams from North Louisiana that'll be state champions. You got Ruston and Ouachita Paris going to play each other. You've got Calvary Baptist is playing. You got North DeSoto that's going down there. Then Sterlington and Gina are playing each other, and then Haynesville and Mangum are playing. And so I think it's pretty incredible for those coaches year in and year out. A lot of those teams on that list are there every year, and I know the coaches for those programs do an incredible job, and for them to make it back, Ruston, 4 years in a row, it's just amazing. And Coach Ball and his staff do a great job. And so that's the part of it that I think is a negative, is you don't get a chance to go down there and watch those games, because to be able to see those kids compete in the Superdome and compete in that environment, you get to find out a lot about them. But from a recruiting standpoint, we signed, I think, 18 kids on signing day, and so I believe we had 3 of them from Evangel. Kenny Thomas from North DeSoto's their running back, and is just freaking lighting it up, and so it'll be fun to watch him hopefully go out and have an opportunity to win a state championship. And Coach Dunn just does a great job there. And so that part of it from a recruiting standpoint is a little bit it's unfortunate, but the thing is we'll be playing on December 30th on national TV, so guys will be able to chance to watch us play. And when you look at what our team has done on defense, offense, and special teams in terms of the success that they've had, they'll be able to see that on a national audience.
Wanted to open up for Zoom. Do we have any questions here?
Looks like.
Yes, Coach. Just your experience from a year ago, how has that shaped your outlook and game plan for your preparation for Coastal coming up on the 30th?
Could you ask that again?
Yes, Daniel Brown, KTBS out of Shreveport. Your experience from a season ago, how much has that shaped your preparation plan for Coastal?
As far as the experience with JJ?
Just dealing with the bowl experience in Shreveport and how your preparation for the bowl schedule with everything you got to do.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No, I get it. That's a great question as well. It's a lot easier this year, and we got a lot more time to plan for it than what we had last year. And so, being able to look at the events that they have our team doing, and the community service event where we're going to the Holy Angels, in which it was just a tremendous experience for myself and for our kids. I think it makes it a little bit easier just because you've done it, and so you can plug and place some of the events and base it into your schedule and your calendar to where you make everything flow from the standpoint of, I think it's important, like once you don't want to be taking the kids back and forth to the hotel where you do an event, you go to the hotel, you go to practice, you go to an event. And so just I guess the ease of that and knowing what we're doing. I know a lot of the events will be different. The time slots are the same, but I think it will be very helpful, just from that standpoint, and being able to have a great plan for when we're down there in Shreveport in terms of the community service events and also the activities that they have for our players, and then all the while practicing as well.
Any more questions on Zoom? If everyone is good, we're going to go ahead and finish.
Yeah, appreciate you guys. Yep.
You guys?